It is officially good afternoon time, and thank you for joining us today for this time of devotion and just sharing some things with you. I hope that from today, start of the week, this point forward, it will only improve your week. Do want to mention a couple of things going on around the church this week, in particular the sweet potato drop. That is coming Wednesday, 4:30 to 6 here on campus, and it's going to be a drive-through. We're inviting the community to come through and get some sweet potatoes, and there'll be some candy bags that have been prepared by some of our classes to be able to hand out. And also there'll be a place where folks can stop and have prayer time. We're going to have multiple places for that to happen. So we just want to be able to minister to our community during this time and provide the kids a little fun, because it's just going to be a different time of year in place of our regular fall festivals. And also, we've completed the second week of on-campus Sunday school on Sunday mornings, and it's been really good. Real blessing to see people come back, and again, as you are comfortable to come into the building spaces and be with your class, we would encourage you to do that. Some classes can meet by Zoom. That's been offered, and we know that some are doing a Facebook Live or something like that out of their own class. Would encourage you to visit the church website. Go to that regathering page and scroll down to the bottom, and you'll have there where you can register for worship and Sunday school. And then right below that is a button, another clicker to click, and you'll get to the listings of the Sunday school classes. Thank you so much for your prayers and your encouragement during these times. We're always thinking, when are we going to get back to normal? And for now, this is normal. And then we'll see what normal looks like down the road as well. In preparing for today, I remembered something that had happened to me. It was probably within my first 6 to 8, 9 months of me arriving here in Columbus. And part of that coming in was getting a new cell phone and a new cell phone number, and all the fun that comes with that of creating contacts and building up the cell phone. And I remember one day I got a text, and it was from a number that I didn't have in my contacts. And so I just kind of set it aside, and as you do sometimes when you're busy, you'll go back and look and see, maybe check some emails, check your text. Well, when I checked this text, I was like, okay, this is interesting. The text said, "I love you and I miss you." And this is going to be one of those days. I've got tissues here for me, and that's because I'm going to get to a story, but this one as well. And I replied back. I said, I'm glad to hear that, but I don't have you in my phone or in my contacts. And there was a reply that it was from a young lady. She was a teenager. She lived in Millport, and she said, "You have the phone number of my dad, and my dad died in the last year or so. I think it was at least a year." And she said, "So I just wanted to send this text to reach out to him." And I told her, said "You are more than welcome to text anytime that you want to do this. And that is fine with me." I said, I would love to help you if you need to. I'm in the ministry and here in Columbus." And told her where I was here at Fairview. And I just had that brief encounter with that young lady. And I came across another story that was very, very similar to that. And this one was a little bit longer. It was a 4-year time that this young girl, and if I don't make it through this, her name is Chastity Patterson, and you can Google that, look on the computer, search up Chastity Patterson. And Chastity lives in Arkansas, and right now she's 24 years old, and this came out, was shared last year when she was 23. But Chastity, her father, the man she identified as her father, had died, and that was 4 years prior to. And Chastity had been doing the same thing that this little girl, this young lady over in Millport was doing, except it was at 10:30 in the morning and then at night. She would text the number just to share and express herself to her dad, thinking, and that's, one of those grief methods when people experience loss is to like journal and write about things. And so she was doing that in today's technological format. And she was texting, and it was 4 years consistently through her own struggles, that she had cancer as a young lady, and the challenge that she'd had, the victories that she had. And it was coming up to the 4-year anniversary, and she texted her dad saying, it was almost 4 years ago, and she shared some ideas. But on this day, she got a response. And the person who had been receiving those texts replied to her. And I want to read part of that. I'm not going to make it through the whole thing. I may call Mitchell over here to finish it up, but it is very touching. But the guy's name, we're calling him Brad. He didn't want to be identified when she put this out to public. He didn't want to be identified. But he said, "Hi, sweetheart, I'm not your father, but I've been getting your messages for the past 4 years. I look forward to your morning messages and your nightly updates. My name is Brad, and I lost my daughter in a car wreck in 2014. And your messages have kept me alive." He says, "I'm sorry you lost someone so close to you, but I have listened to you over the years, and I have watched you grow and go through more than anyone because of our health things and other things that had happened. I've wanted to text you back for years, but I didn't want to break your heart. You're an extraordinary woman, and I wish my daughter would have become the woman that you are. Thank you for everyday updates. You remind me that there is a God, and it wasn't His fault that my little girl is gone. He gave me you, and I knew this day was coming. Everything will be okay. To push yourself every day and shine the light God gave you. I'm sorry you have to go through this, but if it makes you feel any better, I'm very proud of you." In following conversations, this guy Brad told her, "What can I tell people about you?" He says, "Well, I don't want to be identified, but you can tell them, essentially, I get your messages, and I wait till 10:30 every day, and when you send that message, that's when I start drinking." Brad was drowning his grief misery with alcohol, and he admitted that to her. They have a connection and relationship that is unlike any other. They've kind of met each other's need, and her helping Brad and him helping her. But it goes to me thinking about grief and our hope. We're at the beginning of a holiday season. Just next week, we'll jump into November already. And maybe the 80-degree days will finally go away. And what Brad is waiting on is something that Chastity has already experienced. Yes, she still navigates her grief, but she is sharing in her accomplishments and her challenges, journaling in that way. And I was looking at particularly John chapter 16 and verse 17. And in these verses, Jesus talks to the disciples that they will have grief, and he's relating it to his death, but then joy will come. Joy will come. And I'm just going to read today John 16, 17 through 22. It says, "Some of the disciples said to one another, 'What does he mean by saying, in a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me?'" Jesus had been sharing with them, and they didn't understand that statement. And also he had said, and they didn't understand what this meant, he said, "Because I am going to the Father." They were questioning that. And they kept asking, "What does he mean by a little while? We don't understand what he's saying." And Jesus saw they wanted to ask him about this, but they didn't. So he said to them, "You're asking one another what I meant when I said, 'In a little while I will see you will see me no more. And then after a little while, you will see me. They're asking him what that, and he knew it. I tell you the truth. You will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy. A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish. When her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. So with you, now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy. Jesus is talking about his death, the uncertainty that these disciples have, even though he plainly says over and over, he's telling them, instructing, this is something that just, in that day and time, dying and coming back to life, even though they had seen it themselves. They didn't understand it in the context of what Jesus spoke about. So we see them questioning here, and that grief that they have will turn to joy. And we take that as kind of an instruction and as a guide and a promise for us as well. That in our grief, in our heartaches that we have, they will turn to joy. And most familiar to me in a lot of ways is when we go to 1 Thessalonians 4:13. In the second part of that verse, it says, we do not want to grieve like the rest of men who have no hope. We believe that Jesus dies and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. That promise that when we die, it's not the end. And that's true for all people. It's true for all people that when they die, it's not the end. But it's the destination that is different. Those who know Christ, who have served him and follow him, their destination is heaven. And those who haven't, who've rejected, their destination is not heaven. They are separated from God. And the joy that we have will come. And I hold on to those promises through my own grief and loss experiences. You kind of sit back and wait, where's that joy? Where's that joy? But it comes. It just kind of seeps back into us. I can talk about one of my grandmothers and tell you stories and not crack a tear or go down any. I was more mature, I think, in my faith when she passed away when I was older. I was married. And then I've got one other grandmother who I lost when I was younger. I was still in school. And just a different relationship, but I could cry like a baby talking about her. But in time, with both of them, there's joy in remembering what they brought to my life, how they blessed me. And we go through that a lot at holidays. And I know it starts a long stretch of November, December, even some into January. We miss that face at the table, that empty chair that's there. And we've had to work through our own grief in our own ways. And there are stages to grief that we go through. But ultimately, the stage we want to get to is just a peacefulness and a happiness and a joy that we had the experience of this loved one for the time that we had them. And things happen in life. Sin is recognized in our life through death because of sin, the world is fallen, and because of sin and the world being fallen, we get sick and we die. And because of sin and the world is fallen, people make bad choices which impact families. But ultimately, we're waiting on that joy to come. And in that, I pray for you, and we'll pray for you that as you approach the holidays, if you need us, if you need staff, if you need resources or if you need something to help you navigate something that's come up in your life, please know that we're here. We're here for those reasons. Not just to share our own experiences, but just remind each other about God's truth and His love for us. And I hope today that maybe you've experienced a little bit of that, just being reminded about God's love for us, and that ultimately, in our grief, that joy does come. Appreciate you joining me today, and I hope you have a blessed week. We look forward to seeing you at the Sweet Potato Drop on Wednesday.